Okay. Let's go through this again. Dun dun dun. I'm live now with the right title, and we're good to go. Okay, so I was talking before about how I've been uncomfortable most of my life, and because I was, hi Kim, nice to see you. And because I was uncomfortable most of my life, I had to find all these ways in order to feel better. I had to find these ways where I didn't feel like my skin was crawling and my heart was jumping out of my chest and my head was pounding. And what would happen is I'd feel so uncomfortable because I was always stressed that I didn't take good care of myself either. So it meant I got dehydrated, or because my stomach was always locked up, I didn't eat regularly. And so my digestive would be messed up. And because I was, my body was contracted all the time, nothing worked well, and I was never hungry. And, I would cry a lot when I was a kid. I didn't get angry. I internalized everything and I cried a lot. And what that was my body trying to detox the emotions that were happening, the things that I was feeling, the stressors, the trauma, the arguments. And then as a kid, all the misunderstandings we have, like, are they mad at me? Is this my fault? Do they really care about me? Am I going to be safe? Is everything going to be okay? What's going to happen? As a kid, our brain can't process through all of these things. It's not mature enough. And so we have all of these emotions and reactions. And in the day and age we live in, many times they aren't socially acceptable. I was so stressed out as a kid. And because I was stressed out, I would cry at the drop of a hat. And my stomach was upset. And all they would do is send me to the nurse, or tell me I needed to calm down, or, they never really gave me any good tools. And I felt ashamed for all of the feelings that I had and how they made my body react, because all sorts of things would happen. Your digestion goes off, your hair is thin. I would vomit a lot. I was nauseous all the time. And so, hey, Pamela, I'm glad you found us. And so I had all of these physical things from the stress when I was a kid. And it felt like it ruined my life because I couldn't enjoy holidays, and I couldn't enjoy being together with friends, and I didn't want to go to parties, and I was always stressed out. Even though I pushed through it and I powered through it and I cried through it and I embarrassed myself, my body was still reacting. So I learned all these great shamanic tools and, sweat lodges and talking circles and feathers and animals, and all of those were great. And they were really powerful, but they didn't do enough. And they took forever. And I had to drive up to Michigan or start it myself. I mean, it was just way too... You can't do it that way. So then I went to Asian medicine, which is great. But Asian medicine is so detailed. Do you have wind in your liver? And is it wet? I mean, it was weird stuff. Hey, Sharon, I'm glad you found us. So Asian medicine had a lot of information, but it wasn't timely. You had to do a half-hour diagnostic before you could figure out what would make you feel better. So that stuff, it worked, and I could help other people feel better all the time, but my progress was still really slow. In the last 10 to 15 years, they have done a lot of science around trauma and PTSD, probably because everybody coming back from the wars, after Vietnam, that was such a nightmare. And so instead, the scientists started to say, how do we deal with all this PTSD that's happening? How do we deal with trauma? How does the body deal with trauma? And they found all this great stuff, but then they kept it secret. They only put a really high price on it to learn it, or, you had to get this, take a 2-year-long program. So it was time prohibitive and cost prohibitive, or you had to see a therapist who charged $1,000 an hour because they had this, secret magic thing that they would do with people, and it would be amazing. So it was held up in these upper echelons, and it's starting to trickle down about how trauma works. And the fact that you don't have to talk forever in order to get the stress off of your body, in order to feel better. In fact, that's one of the things that annoys some of the women that I work with the most, although they don't get too annoyed, because I really do feel bad about it, but it's the most effective way to do it. At the height of the drama of a story, when you're just ramping yourself up to say, and that's when we pause, because that's the height of your stress in that moment. And if we pause right there and we do something that takes you out of the emotion and physically moves your body from one part of your brain to another part of your brain, if you do it in that moment, stress comes off your system. When I first started doing this, I would have dramatic experiences because I had so much rage and so much hurt and so much grief that was buried inside of me because I'd never felt comfortable or safe enough to express it, unless it was, I was cornered. I was a rat in a trap and there was no way I was going to get out. That was the only thing that was strong enough to rip through or bust through. Do you know how painful it is to do it that way? It is so painful to get your emotions to come out, to detox your stress. That's a really painful way to do it, acting it out. Instead, they found that you can work it out and you can do it quickly, and it can take time, like multiple times of doing it, because it's like polishing a mirror. It's detoxing your system. It's getting stress out of your body. And you have to clean it up like a dirty bathtub. There's too much stuff in there, and we have to put a little elbow grease in, and we have to do it regularly. And that's what the challenge is about. If we can do a little bit of focus on these different areas of your life and get stress off of your whole system, your immune system works better. So Pamela wants to know, how do they help with chronic pain? Okay. So as a massage therapist, I knew or learned that pain is caused by something pressing on a nerve. So if a nerve is irritated or pressed in some way, it gives you the felt sense of pain. Now, a lot of times, a nerve gets aggravated or pressed upon because when we are feeling something, but we're controlling it and pushing it down, our body, everything gets smaller. And so there's less space for the nerves. There's less breathing room, let's say, for the nerves. And so they're going to get irritated. It's like the suit's too tight because you're contracted, physically contracted when you are in your fight or flight nervous system because you're getting ready to spring or to run. You're pulling your resources in physically so that you can go. So when you're under chronic fight or flight, your nerves are constantly getting irritated and constantly being pressed upon by your own body. When you start to get the stress off of your system by regulating or calming your nervous system down at the height of, the drama or the memory that you're feeling, it tells your body it's safe enough to physically detox it off of its system. That's why yesterday when Deb did her work, she says, okay, somebody's pee is going to smell. Yeah, that's your body detoxing stress out of the system. So your sweat may smell, your belly may rumble, because it's as if fresh water is finally flowing through your body and it's pushing out all the stagnant cellular waste, emotional waste, toxic chemicals from your environment you've absorbed. Now, the other thing is when you are locked down, when your body is locked down, you don't have good circulation, which means that you're not filtering out things either. Everything gets more concentrated. And heavy metals, toxins from the environment, what happens is because they're not flushing out of your system, they're getting absorbed into your tissue. And as long as you're contracted, they're trapped in your liver and your kidneys and your heart and your back and your shoulder and your knee. These chemicals, hormones and physical chemicals from your environment, they're stored or trapped in the parts of your body that hurt. That's why those parts of your body hurt, because they're not only contracted and irritated, but they're stagnant, and they're filled with things which make your body go, ew, I don't like this. So when you start to get the stress off your system, when you go from contracted physically to open, when that happens, things are able to be flushed out of your system. They come out of the fatty tissue, they come out of the muscle, and they get put into your bloodstream and into your airways, into your lungs, into your breath. And they go through your lymph nodes and your lymph system, and they come out your skin. So you're making a shift, and your body is cleaning out everything that's in there that's been making you feel in pain. So it's not just detoxing emotions and stress out of your brain, it's putting your body into a place where it can heal itself. When you're in fight or flight, your body cannot heal itself. When you are relaxed, when you don't have chronic, constant tension on your system, your body can heal itself. So of course, it's not going to, you'll have a mini miracle and a detox. But the longer you keep the stress off your system, the more time you give yourself to meditate or go for a walk or play with your dog or cook or do laundry because it's fun, or, or set up an environment that makes you feel good. The more you do things like that regulate your heart and regulate your brain, the more your body can heal itself. Your gut can finally heal the inflammation. Your heart can heal the inflammation. Your brain can heal the inflammation. It's very cool stuff. And I know, and we do it by flipping our nervous system. So I'm going to talk to you first about the one that we've been using the most, which is havening. So you understand a little bit about how it works and why it works. So havening is the same thing that people would do in grief. When someone's grieving, they would come and they would provide comfort. That, on a physical level, that comfort touch tells your body it's safe and takes it out of fight or flight and into that alignment. Okay, so most people find the most help from havening because it gives them a sense of comfort and a sense of peace. So you can do it a few different ways. When I haven, I let myself think about whatever I want to think. I don't care. It can be angry, it can be hurt, because remember, we're detoxing. We're getting these things off of our system. So in these healing times, don't judge yourself about what you're thinking. Allow it. Just allow yourself to think it. Allow yourself to go down there while you're havening. Okay? So you can stroke your arms. 20 times is good, because usually it doesn't hit until about 15, 16. Stroke your arms. You can stroke your hands. You can stroke your face. Those are the most common ones. You can stroke somebody else's hand. If they're stressed out, you can stroke their hand. You can stroke their face. You can stroke their skin. You can hold them close. And it will physically tell their nervous system that it's safe. So when you need to calm down immediately, inconspicuously, you can just rub your arms. But as I said, do it like 20 times. You can do it inconspicuously. Nobody knows. Maybe they think you're cold. Who cares? Right? Or I'll, just gently play with my face as if I'm, feeling my skin. It's no problem. Or I'll touch my hands. That's why people would wring their hands before, because it would give them comfort. It would calm their nervous system down. So you can do that even anywhere, on a train, on a bus, down the sidewalk. These are things you can do to help keep yourself calm when you're feeling generally anxious. So I start almost everything with havening because it's so simple and so easy. So that's a tool you should absolutely keep in your toolbox. Whenever you start to feel yourself anxious or stressed, or if you feel anxious and stressed most of the time, you should be havening a lot, because we're rewinding it, right? We're rewiring things. And so it's going to take a little while to rebuild your physical, your physical system, let's say. So havening puts your body into a different brainwave state called a delta brainwave state. And when it's in that quiet, slow brainwave state, it starts to dissolve the triggers in your brain that are making you feel crazy, the ones that make you react if somebody raises an eyebrow or looks at you funny or the energy shifts. That's a trigger in your brain that's saying, oh, red alert, we need to do something about this. When you haven and put yourself in that delta brainwave state, and we went through delta last night when we did the healing thing, the healing at night. When you change your brainwave state, it starts channeling calcium through that trigger. And when it channels calcium through the trigger, it dissolves the glue and the trigger gets reabsorbed, and voila, you have no more trigger. But you have to get the stress out of the way first. They're like layers, they're like walls of stress. And so that has to come off, it has to detox. And when enough of that gets detoxed and enough of the glue gets dissolved because you've regulated enough times, the trigger disappears. So you start becoming less reactionary about everything. Yeah, Pamela, you can do it while you're driving. I've done it at stop signs, at stoplights, if I'm feeling unsafe on the interstate, if I physically don't feel well while driving, I will do it while I'm driving to calm myself down. If that doesn't calm myself down, then typically I'll pull over and do some of the other things. But havening is gentle, simple, easy, doesn't mess with your head in order to get you recentered. So yes, you can do it while driving. So with the trigger gone, now when something that used to trigger you all the time before, like somebody being angry, it doesn't trigger you anymore. It doesn't have a shortcut to make you feel like you're not safe. So it actually solves the problem. When you haven, it solves the problem that didn't get solved when the original trauma happened. You're finally solving it. It's like you're closing the loop. Okay? So the next thing we've talked about is TAT points. Now, these were rediscovered by Tapas Fleming, and they're called Tapas Acupressure Technique, TAT. And they're acupressure points that she had found out later on after she, rediscovered them, that had been passed down in Asian medicine and Japanese culture for centuries. It was like the secret, the healing families. This is their tricky little tool that they would use. And because she's an acupuncturist that would work with emotions, that's how she was able to stumble across them again and how powerful they were. When you do TAT points, it's, for me, maybe it's different for you, but for me, it takes the thoughts and feelings out of my subconscious that are kind of running under the surface, that the ones that say I'm no good, I'm uncomfortable, this isn't working, I'm never going to do this, I feel so heavy, this is terrible. Kind of that underlying, negative thoughts that we have. They're called ants, by some therapists and healers and things. Those automatic negative thoughts, they're always kind of running and they're not being witnessed. We're ignoring them. We're saying, you need to stay over there. I don't want to listen to you. And because I don't want to listen to you, because I'm scared of you, I'm going to go eat this chocolate instead. Nothing wrong with that. I like chocolate. But too much chocolate and you start to have problems, right? Or chocolate too late and you can't sleep, right? So we distract ourselves with shopping or food, anything to not feel how uncomfortable we're feeling. And that underlying message that's happening under the surface about how we're no good. So when I do the TAT points, and it's your thumb and your ring finger, and they go on the inside of your eyebrows, okay? And the two middle fingers sort of rest in the middle of your forehead. Now, where our fingers are, they activate the pineal gland. And the pineal gland, which is back here, it's a gland that sort of integrates everything. And lets the brain waves bounce around the brain and communicate with everybody instead of everybody locked in their own room with the door closed. Now it kind of goes and knocks on everybody's door and says, come out, let's play. So it bounces all these signals around your brain. And you take the other hand and you put it right on, like at the back of your head, right on your occiput, kind of cradling your neck in the back of your head. And when I do this, I'm going to not hold it so I can talk a little bit, but feel free to hold it. I will hold them for minutes and I'll change the pressure from heavy to light. I'll just whatever feels good. What it does is it's as if you're finally honoring and validating and accepting and giving space for and loving and having compassion for all of those negative thoughts, all of the things that other people did or things that happened or ideas from generations ago that you've been ignoring, that's been passed down person to person. You can hear it. And that's why we don't judge it. Because you know as well as I do, you need to witness those things, those broken parts of your soul, those pieces that have been isolated behind their locked doors. We need to reintegrate them. We need to welcome them home. So listen to them. Even if they say or do things in your mind, in your vision, or feel things that you don't like, just do it, hold the points, and watch how it changes. Because it will change. Your thoughts will change because finally they're being witnessed, they're being loved, they're being cared about, they're being taken care of. You know, so when you do the TAT points, hold them as long as you want or as short as you want. Heavy pressure, light pressure, change the pressure, doesn't matter. Because it's finally honoring that subconscious thing that's going on. So that's how TAT points work for me. So those are the top two that I use. Now here's a fun one. This is number 3. Number 3 is when I like to use this when I look at somebody and I think, boy, I really don't like them. Or I have kind of a negative reaction, like a visual trigger. If I have a visual trigger of some sort, that bothers me, like, who do they think they are? Or, boy, I really wish I could have that, like a boat or a tennis racket or something. If I have that, oh, good, Melissa, I'm so glad that you're with us. And Doreen's here too. That's awesome. And thank you, Doreen. So, okay. So what this one does is it breaks the neural association you have with that image, with that visual. So, you know, when all those catty things come up in you, because there are insecurities. They're the things that say we're not good enough, and who knows where they came from, but who cares? You don't have to go down the rabbit hole and figure them out. But you've got it. It's there. It exists. You got the face. For me, it was Oprah. You know, I had the face, Oprah. And I would see Oprah and I get mad. For a long time, because I was angry at the Catholic Church, I'd see Jesus, I'd get mad immediately. It was a visual trigger. Something that I saw visually triggered me. Okay, so this one, you're going to have some space because you're going to stand up. Although Jenny yesterday, I think, did it in her chair. So here we are. Oh, let me change the camera. There, that's better. Okay. This one I like to call the pointy thingy. I really don't know what the name is, but I love this one so much and I use it all the time because it's fascinating how this works. Okay, so you take your visual, let's say for me, Oprah, and you can do it about anything. You can do it about the slightest little negative thought that comes up, you know, or negative trigger that comes up. You can use it for that. You don't have to wait for high drama. So I give myself those times like I did last night where you just, you know, you let yourself think every bad thought you want to think and then you do something about it. The bad thought is only a reflection of how you feel, of the stress on your system. That's all it is. It doesn't mean anything else. And so when I have the negative thought, I just do something about it. Okay, so y'all got a visual? And if you feel like it, put it in the chat, you know, what your visual is. Because this, you don't even have to say why or anything. You can put boat or Oprah or dogs or Trump or anything you want. Pick something and put it in the chat if you would, because we would all love to hear what each of us have, because they're fun. So I already cleared out Oprah a long time ago. So what should I do? Something that's on my mind. Okay. You know what? I came up with my word yesterday. Last night I was working through the word. And I had come up with faith. And then I did my little tricky thing to get the emotion out of the way around faith. And it went deeper to another one. You know, it started with joy, and then it went to faith, and then it went to strength. And then it went to, I think it went back to faith. So put the visual about a foot in front of you, and I'm going to use the word faith right now. All right, so I'm picturing the word faith in front of me by about a foot. And if you want, you can put it to your right a little bit. It can either be right in front of you or to your right. Okay, got it? Now, point at it. Point at it physically, literally with your finger. Now you can keep your eyes open or you can keep them closed. It doesn't matter. Although if you're going to trip, keep them open. Look at it, and it's going to follow you as you turn around 3.5 times. So we're pointing at it. We're going to turn to our left 3.5 times, and we're going to keep looking at it as we turn, because it'll move with us, and you're going to see if it changes at all. See if the edges get fuzzy, or you feel more resolute about it, or it disappears, or it puts a funny hat on it, or it turns into somebody else. All right? You ready? Okay, deeper in your word this year. Good. Okay. And Lynn's here too. Point at it to the left, and I'll count. It's at a fairly decent, it's not fast. It's, a regular pace. Okay, to the left, go. Point at it. One. Two. Three. And a half. Nice. So my word actually changed, and it changed to love, which I was resisting because love doesn't feel strong enough for a word of the year. It feels all fluffy bunny. But I'm realizing that love comes in different layers and levels, and it's the drive behind everything. So that one is a fun one. Oh, I wanted to do another one that's standing up. Okay, so put in the chat if you feel like it, any changes or shifts that happen for you, because I get crazy ones. I get all sorts of stuff. I get insights and understandings. Whenever I have to make a decision, I just assume I've got stress around it, and I'll do this. I'll do the pointy thing, and I'll turn 3.5 times around, because it's just like a preventative. It's just like, I don't know, taking aspirin along with you in case you get a headache because you're prone to headaches, or you're going someplace that's loud, or bringing earmuffs if you're going to be someplace that's loud, or it's like good hygiene. It's emotional hygiene. Okay. So here's the next one. It's a timeline one. Ooh, what did Melissa say? Love and healing visual, a little fuzzy. Oh, good. Your inner child presented herself. Nice job, Melissa. That's awesome. Okay. So the timeline is, first of all, I want you to think about something that happened in the past. And I want you to pay attention when you think about it, like where your eyes go. Like if you're, magnify it a little bit as if your eyes were going to move. If you were going to think about something that happened yesterday, let's say like what you had for breakfast, my eyes naturally kind of go back and to the right, because I like to keep an eye on my past. I don't like it to get too far away from me. And so my past is kind of on an angle behind me. All right. Now I want you to think of something that's in the future, something that might happen tomorrow or later today, and pay attention to where your eyes go. So when I think about the future, like tomorrow, I tend to think up and to my left. So when I think about the future, I tend to my eyes tend to go up and to my left. And when I think about the past, my eyes tend to go a little back and to my right. So picture that as a rope or a bar or a tree branch or a staff or a something. It's kind of resting on your shoulders. All right. So I've got my hands around this bar, around this thing. That's my timeline. This is my timeline, my whole timeline, not just the good stuff or the bad stuff. This is all of it. And just for a few minutes, we're going to get some perspective around it. So just play along with me. All right. You've got it. You've got your timeline. You're going to pick it up. You're going to put it on the ground. All right. Now you're going to take a step over it, like 2 steps, like you're stepping over a broom to get married or something. You're going to take 1 step over it. And then I'm going to haven, because I know just walking away from my timeline is a little freaky. It takes some practice. The first time I did this exercise, I had chills up my spine. And then I did it 3 or 4 times afterwards in the shower, like over the next day or 2. And I had big internal shifts, big releases. So every time I do this, I get better perspective, better balance around my timeline. Okay, so now we're going to take another step, 2 steps, another 2 steps forward. All right, let's move the camera. There we go. So another 2 steps forward. And while I'm forward here, maybe I'll do my TAT points. I'll just hold those for 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Each of these tools have their own genius to them, their own gifts. So I'll usually use them layered. I'll use one and then I'll do the next and then I'll go back to the first one. So I'll haven and TAT and then do the pointy thingy and then do the timeline. And I'll go back and forth a few because the stress layers were put on in a certain order in your brain based on your experiences and your history. And so they kind of need to be taken off in the same way. And so you're taking a layer off and taking a layer off and taking a layer off, just like that onion metaphor. Okay, so I'm holding my TAT points and I can feel myself relaxing. I can feel me getting distance from all the things that would give me emotional charge in my history, on my timeline, everything before this moment. I'm letting go briefly, just to give myself a little breathing room and perspective. Okay, so when you're ready, you've done all the nervous system regulation stuff you want to do. You can do the pointy thing if you want. You can do the TAT. You can do the havening. Now take a step back, those 2 steps back again. And then when you're ready, take that last step back over that broom or bar or whatever it is, and then lean down and pick it up. Move the camera. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Oh, and then lean down and pick it up and put it back on your shoulders. Good. There we go. Okay, so that's number 4. So we've done havening, which puts you in a delta brainwave state. We've done TAT points, which help you witness and honor that subconscious hum that's going on at the, underneath everything. We've done the pointy thingy, which is a riot that breaks the visual bond. We've done the timeline, which is cool. So now I'm going to show you something from Heart Math. Now, Heart Math Institute is an institute out of California. They study the science and spirituality of the heart. And the things that they've discovered over their years, and they've done a lot of research, a lot of stuff around it, is that our body, our hearts inform our brain. It's not our brain informing our hearts very much. It's more so our hearts informing our brain. And so if our heart is what we call dysregulated, meaning that There's no flow to it. The heart is, it almost looks like static. You know, when you see static visually, it looks like that. You know, it looks like bad music. And when it's regulated, it's smoother. Everything works smoother. It works better, it moves better, it flows better. So when you're stressed out, of course, your heart is going to be dysregulated. And when you're not stressed out, your heart is regulated. Guess what? You can regulate your heart. And when you regulate, excuse me. Okay, that's better. When you regulate your heart, it also regulates your immune system, it regulates your gut, it regulates your brain. So you don't have to just do havening or work directly with the brain. You can work with your heart. So how do you regulate your heart? It's super simple. You focus on your chest. If you focus on your chest, and you can focus on it by resting your hand there, you can focus on it by putting something, a weight or a stone. You can lightly touch it, or you can just put your focus there. I find it's easier if I actually touch it. If you pay attention to your chest, it will start to regulate your heart. It's as simple as that. If you are trying to feel calmer and get out of that place of fight or flight, you can focus on your heart. You can think whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, but you focus on your heart, on your chest even. And you let your breathing slow, even just a little bit slower than normal. And that's okay. It tells your heart that it's safe and that it's time to start regulating things. Now, if you want it to work even better, then you think of a happy memory. You think of something that brings you joy. You think of something that brings you peace or caring. And that was one of the reasons I posted what I did. Put something that brings you joy. So if you've got that joy, it boosts your heart rhythm. It helps it be more regulated. So if you can trigger yourself in a positive way, which is why my environment looks the way that it does. I have things everywhere that trigger me in a positive way so that I stay in a good place. I purposely, intentionally, and that's what we were talking about with Rochelle last night on the Interior Design with Janae. You purposely, intentionally create environments that keep you calm, that make you creative, that keep you connected to something bigger than yourself. And even if you're changing environments, you can do something in your car, or it can be as simple as a pebble in your pocket or a quarter in your pocket that you always use. Something that's a touchstone in your environment that you can physically, visually engage with that gives you a happy memory, gives you a happy feeling. You know what works for me? Every time I think about the feeling of warm sun on my face, I get a feeling of lightness. I get a feeling of joy. So find your thing. And if you want, put it in the chat, the thing that brings you joy. Or as I said with the picture post that I put earlier, things that bring you joy, things that make you happy, okay? So focus on your heart, your chest. Think of something that makes you happy. Okay. And now magnify it as if you're giving it out to the world. Give it a little bit of a boost. Now, you're not making this stuff up. When you feel different, it's because your body is doing something different. So when your body relaxes, when you yawn, when things change, when you feel lighter, good. That's wonderful, Pamela. When you feel lighter, when you feel like you can move better and less stiffly, that's something physical. And when you focus on your heart and you think of something that makes you feel good, And then if you want to give it more power, you radiate it out. Your body's actually healing itself. That's why every time a healer helps someone else heal, they have to be in a place of love and compassion and kindness. They have to be, in order to help the other person heal. Otherwise, it doesn't work as well. And so me helping other people heal brings those feelings of love and joy up in me, which then heals me. That's how that works. So every time you spend in prayer, meditation, walking in the woods, gratitude, you know, especially if you're focusing on your chest in any way, you can just rest your hands there, you can just put them there, you can do a prayer thing, whatever. When you do that, it's telling your body it's time to heal, which is very, very cool. Okay, so I think that was my 7. I'm pretty sure that was the 7. There's plenty more. But, and I'll keep sharing things with you as we go by. We'll use different tools as we do them and start integrating it more, because each tool has its own gift. Now, I know it can seem like fluffy or flim-flam or none of this is really working. But when you start doing it, you start to notice changes. And the changes are you become more authentic. In the moment, you usually stay calmer because you're releasing the stress. But what happens is, because you're detoxing things off your system, you have more confidence. You're better able to stand up for yourself. You don't need courage anymore because you just have confidence, because you know how to regulate yourself. You know how to get yourself out of a bad situation, out of a bad mood, out of a bad energy. You know what to do. You become empowered. You start to have choices, and this gives you choice over how you feel. You're not helpless anymore. When you do these things, whatever it looks like, I like these tools the best because they're fast, easy. I can do them while looking for a snack, while driving. It's no fuss. It's not a sweat lodge. So innate awakening wisdom. Beautiful. Very cool. Thanks, Melissa. So start doing them regularly, start doing them all this week if you can. Because once you start to see the effects and you see how confident you become and how much your self-esteem rises and how much your pain starts to go down, you keep doing it because you like the benefits. Okay, what if you had men hurt you, manipulate, control? How do you send loving energy out to them? You don't have to send loving energy out to them. You have to send loving energy to you. And if you're radiating out, you're not necessarily radiating it out to them. You're just radiating it out, like the sun. The sun isn't radiating or glowing specifically because of me, but it radiates and glows because that's what it does. It's the same thing for you. Forgiveness will happen when you feel good. When Brene Brown would say, the most compassionate women are the ones with the best boundaries. Because if you're continuing to be traumatized and manipulated and lied to and hurt, you're not able to feel compassion. You're literally not able to feel compassion. And so you have to set those walls like you did, and then you have to start giving yourself the love physically that you always wanted. And giving yourself the love is the havening or the TAT or any of these tools that we did today. And when you radiate it out, don't get hung up that you're radiating it out to a person. Just focus on the fact that you're radiating, and it'll go wherever it'll go. It'll be as far as it'll be. You're becoming the sun. You're becoming the light, physically, literally. And your aura will get bigger, and people who can see that stuff will be like, wow, your aura's getting bigger. You know, they'll see those changes in you. So don't get hung up on doing it for somebody else. This is all about you loving and respecting you and getting your needs met. And forgiveness of them and peace around them happens as a side effect of you loving yourself. So you don't have to love them right now. Don't force yourself. Don't make yourself. Don't even like them. Instead, like and love yourself. And through the healing, when the healing happens, you're able to find compassion and kindness and peace around the other person. That's kind of how the process works. Okay? Yeah, exactly, Pamela. Give yourself the love, and then other people will benefit, but you don't have to worry about who's benefiting or not benefiting. Okay? Cool. All right. So Robert, Dr. Love's going to be here in 15 minutes, which is exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing him. And we're going to talk about chocolate and dementia and what it does for the brain and all the different herbs you can add and why it works and how it works. So if you are worried about brain stuff or you just want to boost it, we're going to have a great conversation about healthy chocolate, which I'm super excited about. Okay, so I will see everybody in about 14 minutes.